Bennett, this time yesterday, Rick Barnes' Tennessee Vols were the only undefeated team in the entire country. They ain't that no more. They ain't that no more. And that's because they went to Florida last night and they lost bad. 73-43. Would you be surprised to hear that's the worst loss for a number one ranked team in the AP poll since 1968? You weren't even born yet, Bennett. You weren't even thought of being born yet.
I wouldn't be surprised because I watched because I had something at stake, and that was that was shameful. That was shameful by the Vols. I've tried to be kinder as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
To the Vols and their fan base, but that was embarrassing. That was truly embarrassing. You can't do that. I mean, come on, man. You're number one team in the country. They got smacked.
I mean, smacked. They couldn't score at the beginning.
43 points.
I was embarrassed for them, Bennett. Like, where's your heart at? If you got some heart, where's your heart at?
Dude, 43 points. It's like you have to actively try to score that few points.
It looked like they were, Bennett. Chaz Lanier was 3 of 16 from the field. He's their All-American. They were just bad across the board. They shot 21.4% from the field, 13.8% from three. There was nothing good about it. And this Florida thing's becoming interesting. I've moved them up to 4 in the top 25 and 1. You know, they're a team that doesn't have too many big wins before last night, but they are 14-1 now with a 30-point win over top-ranked Tennessee. Lone loss being 106-100 at Kentucky over the weekend. And it's not really discussed. Honest question. Tell me if you are even aware of this, that Florida's coach right now, Todd Golden, is facing a Title IX investigation for allegedly doing some really creepy stuff with University of Florida students. Are you aware of this story at all?
Yeah, because we talked about it when it broke a couple of months ago. So, yeah, I was aware of it. But
okay, so, that's the thing, though. We talked about it when it broke, and there's no real reason for you and I to keep talking about it.
Sure.
But I do host a college basketball podcast, and I made the point earlier today with Matt Norlander. We talked about it when it happened, like when the news broke, and it's just sort of just not. It's like just unspoken now. Mm-hmm. But if he did what he's accused of doing, there's not a single person on the planet who would think that dude needs to be working on a college campus. And not only is he still working on a college campus, he's coaching one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah. And, man, go ahead.
And I'm not suggesting that Florida should do something about this. I mean, there's lawyers involved and millions of dollars at stake. And if you were to, quote unquote, pull the trigger on Todd Golden right now before this investigation concludes, then you run the risk of incredible lawsuits that could cost you tens of millions of dollars. So you almost have to just sort of let it play out like this. Mm-hmm. But it playing out like this is kind of just awkward at the very least. Here is a man coaching one of the best teams in the country, in the best conference in the country, getting an incredibly high-profile victory last night, arguably the biggest of his career, and it's all happening while he is dealing with a Title IX investigation where I think this is a reasonable and fair way to put it. He has been credibly accused of some pretty serious stuff. If you want to say innocent till proven guilty, fine with me. I'm happy to see where this goes. But nobody I've ever talked to, or at least very few people I have ever talked to about this, believe that the investigation is going to go well for Todd Golden. They believe that this is very much like the LSU investigation into Will Wade. Totally different set of circumstances, I should be clear. That was rules violations, and this is inappropriate conduct for somebody who works on a college campus. But the point is, Will Wade, I think on some level, always knew when the investigation is over, I am done. But until it's over, they can't do nothing with me. So I'm just going to keep taking these direct deposits every 2 weeks until they can get me. And when that investigation was concluded, when the NCAA came down and sent the notice of allegations, I want to say it was within 24 hours. Will Wade was out at LSU, but they had to wait for that so that they could legally, without opening themselves up to incredible lawsuits, get the deal done that way. And that's obviously what Florida is doing here. Different set of circumstances, but they're letting this play out so that they don't run the risk of losing tens of millions of dollars, if not more, in a lawsuit. But when you let it play out under this cloud, then it really creates this weird situation where the more success you have, the more people start paying attention to the allegations that you're facing. In other words, we didn't talk about this yesterday. And if Florida would have lost last night, we might not be talking about it today. But because Florida went out and beat the number one team in the country and improved to 14-1 and jumped into the top 5 of the top 25-1, it's the thing we've got to talk about on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. It's the thing I'm now talking to you about. So it's this weird deal. Like if Florida ends up in the NCAA tournament, advancing to the Sweet 16, going to the Final Four, that's when 60 Minutes shows up and wants to do a story on you. Not about how good your basketball team is, but how you're doing really well with this basketball team while facing these very serious allegations. So just keep an eye on that. I don't think anybody's expecting a resolution today. I don't even think anybody is really asking for a resolution today, but it's just the latest example. We sort of did this with Terrence Shannon at Illinois last season, with Brandon Miller at Alabama before that. High-profile figures leading high-profile teams while facing allegations or just questions related to, in some cases, like criminal activity. So it's just another one of those situations that is attached to the sport of college basketball, and we'll see where it goes. But the more Florida wins, the bigger a story it's going to become.